When Charlie got sick, life completely changed. It was definitely the strangest time of my life.
I felt confused. I felt deep grief.
It was like the world fell apart.
Definitely the hardest night of my life because he was dying.
I felt like Jesus was asleep in the boat.
Faith called us and told us he's going to be intubated.
So I'm holding this baby and praying, Lord, please save my husband.
We arranged for me to fly to Nashville the next day, and I remember getting on the plane just praying, Lord, I pray that he lives till I get there. I was so worried that I would put my phone in airplane mode, and when I landed in Nashville, I would find out that he hadn't made it.
I just felt hopeless a lot.
My son Johnny and I would travel back and forth every week during that whole season. We would come back to Florida for the weekend. I would preach, and I would update the congregation, ask everybody to pray. And then we'd hop on a plane on Monday and head back to Nashville for a few days so we could visit Charlie. And
Once we got there, there was always a kid to take care of, someone to console, or going to visit Charlie. There was always something waiting for us when we got there.
there's that old movie where Bill Murray has to do the same thing every day.
Groundhog Day. Like, it just happened over and over again.
The first time I saw Charlie in ICU, when I was able to get to Nashville, and I walked into the ICU room for the first time, they would only let one of us in at a time, so I had to go in there by myself.
Charlie was completely unresponsive at that time for the most part. I mean, he opened his eyes and would look at me every now and then. Yeah, I would just sit there and talk a lot of the times, just about whatever.
And I saw him laying there. My first memory of that is that it was traumatic.
Please help him live. I want to plan this funeral. I never thought about this, and it was so difficult.
I just remember thinking that he looked so still and lifeless, and I was thankful at the moment that he looked peaceful, but I wasn't prepared, I guess, for how scary it was.
On day 2 of Charlie being on the ventilator is when he started really suffering.
I'd finally get a break, a moment to rest in the bed with baby Charity, and then I get a text. His lung collapsed.
I prayed to God a prayer that I really regret. And I said, God, stop the suffering and just take him already, basically. And then when Charlie kept on surviving, I found myself angry with God.
But I didn't realize later he was going to show us how much he really did care.
It reminds me of, Mary and Martha looking at Lazarus' tomb. And, they see the tomb and they see a dead person, and Jesus sees Lazarus. And they complain at Jesus. They say, why didn't you do anything? Why didn't you do what we wanted you to do? Why didn't you come and heal him? When the truth is that Jesus saw way more than they did, and he had a much better plan for Lazarus.
How did your faith help you get through that? I don't know how anybody gets through something like that without faith in the Lord. And it was certainly our faith that sustained us.
It was as if my spirit was just saying, I don't understand any of this, but you are God and I am not.
That morning that I got ready to leave to get on the plane to fly to Nashville for the first time, and Kelly was still so sick, and we were just so brokenhearted and very, very concerned for Charlie's life. And I remember saying to her, we'll get through this together.
Even if my brother dies, God's still going to be good. He's still going to be God.
I had to face that, if God chose to take him to heaven, I still had hope that God would still get the victory, that Charlie would be in heaven, and one day I'd be reunited with him.
And I don't know what's going to happen. I'm extremely sad and extremely scared, and I don't get any of this, but I'm going to trust you, and I believe that you are going to do whatever you're going to do, and your will be done, not mine.
How we define faith is so different. People were not praying that we would get what we want. They were praying that God would do what is good and right.
But because of my faith, because I believed in the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ, I had that confidence. I had that hope that, of course, God knew my desire to want Charlie to be my husband and be Charity's dad, but if that prayer wasn't answered, I could still trust him.
So it was just more of a posture of submission and surrender. And I feel like I just kept that posture for so many days and so many weeks.
But I also grew in appreciation for just the presence of God in your life. I'm always been aware that God is with me and he sustains me, but when you go through this kind of experience and, the first thing you think of as soon as you wake up is my son in the hospital, holding on to life, and last thing you think of before you go to bed, and it just dominates your thinking, going through this kind of a trial, and just almost constantly praying. It really does make you so much more aware of the presence of God, that he is real, that he cares. You just sense that he's walking with you when you're a believer.
And in spite of the suffering, there's so many miracles around us, and there's so many good things.
When you're in it, he will be in there with you.
And if I didn't have my faith, that would have been even so much harder. I feel like I would have just been spiraling into depression, and anger, and overwhelming anxiety, and feeling hopeless. But because of my faith, I had hope. I had confidence that no matter what was going to happen, God would still win. He would still see me through, no matter what that looked like. I could trust him.
I remember coming to that moment where I just kind of surrendered and said, I've worked hard did everything I possibly could to get Charlie to this point, and I've advocated for him. He's getting the best possible care. It is in God's hands. And that was actually a relief to me at that point. It helped me to be at peace knowing that I've done all I could do. It's up to God. This is not a man deal. This is God's deal.
Never did I feel God's presence so tangibly than I did during that season. He was true to what I read about in his word. I think about the scripture in Psalm 23 that just completely came to life. The Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you are with me. Your rod and staff, they comfort me.
I remember many weekends sitting really close to Charlie with my phone out, watching New Day worship services online.
Consider it joy when you face trials of any kind.
I would get the phone out and we'd sit really, really close together.
Suffering produces perseverance.
And I'd turn on the worship service.
Or in this life you will experience trouble.
And I would sing the songs, with New Day.
All those scriptures come to life. And it was just beautiful to see and be reminded that God is alive and active and living.
It's when the song Firm Foundation started becoming a big song.
It's an indescribable feeling to be in an ICU room and still sing a song like Christ Be Magnified.
Even in the chaos. Even when the rains came and the winds blew.
And have to sing the words. I won't be formed by feelings. I'll hold fast to what is true.
And there was this song that I kind of had on repeat at that time called Million Little Miracles.
And if it puts me in the fire, I'll rejoice 'cause you're there too.
Because he lives, I can face tomorrow.
And tears would be streaming, down my face. I could barely sing because there's my son in the fire.
Even in the death of my brother, you are closer than no other.
What a truth that he did come. He loves us. He heals us. He still works miracles. He forgives us.
It was like every corner I turned, there was some message from God. It was like, it's going to be all right.
And it's a reminder that, Christ is there with me.
We know how the story ends. God gets the victory.
But now when we sing songs like that at church, I've never been the same.
And sometimes all it takes is just that mustard seed sized faith, and sometimes that's all we have. Sometimes all it takes is a breath of faith.